In New York City today, they are still trying to figure out who wanted Joe Colombo dead. Carmine Galante was rubbed out today as he sat in a Brooklyn
three
luncheonette.
other men in trench coats and fedora hats surrounded the car and in close range pumped at least 6 bullets each.
You compared killing someone to swatting a fly.
Simple. Because if I didn't, I couldn't kill him.
For 3 months, I traveled across America to try to understand what life is like in the Mafia. The men I met were major figures, some of whom have never spoken before. Are you saying there were times when your son came with you?
He was there on an occasion or two, yeah. I left him in the car. I went out and I shot a guy and I walked back in the car. He heard the gunshots. And I used to joke with him. You went on your first hit at 7 years old.
Do they come after you?
No. Nobody has. Maybe after they hear this, they might.
It's a life they may leave, but can never entirely escape. Nor can their families avoid the consequences. The first rule of the Mafia is loyalty. Break it, and you pay the price.
Nothing could justify killing somebody in that way as your brother was killed.
Trevor, this is the life. This is the life we chose. This is the life he chose, the path. Your life is not your own. You're property of this entity, this Cosa Nostra that goes back hundreds of years.
My introduction to the mobster life was unusual. This is Queens in New York, and it turns out to be a typical Mafia neighborhood. The man taking me around grew up here and became a killer. His job was to do the Mafia's dirty work on the streets. Meet John Alite. He's still known in these parts as the sheriff. How dangerous an area was this, John?
Well, back growing up, this area is called Woodhaven. That's the name of the section. We nicknamed it Death Haven.
Death Haven?
Yeah, there was constant murders here, constant rivalries between different guys in the street, different mob families. So we would kill almost at will as somebody given a beating. My friend Angela was shot here 3 or 4 times on the corner, shot in the head, back several times. The bar owners on this corner, there was a double homicide there. Those are just a couple. I mean, there's probably a dozen bodies just on this 2 blocks here.
How many of these incidents were you involved in, John?
Directly, quite a few. Indirectly, always. But somehow I'm tied into everything that goes on around here. This was my neighborhood. I kind of enforced it. I happened to grow up here, and as I aged, I took over this area.
Hey! What's up, man? How you doing? What's up? How are you?
Hi, I'm Trevor.
Trevor
McDonald.
Tim.
Tim Jones.
How are you?
You friends with John?
Yeah, I've known him a long time, since 6 years old.
May I ask, what do you do for a living these days?
I'm an attorney, so I've seen in and out of his various housing arrangements. You know.
Housing arrangements?
Yeah, you know, sometimes
he... friends?
Oh yeah, we've known a long time, sure. He was sometimes locked up 23 hours a day, and his parents would call me up. As his attorney, I could get him out. And
so you tried to help John by getting him out of prison?
I did. I don't think it worked, but...
Looking at this area today, it's still difficult to believe all these things that went on.
This neighborhood was chock full of trouble. It was tough to stay out of trouble here. He looked for it. He looked for it. We went the other way, you know.
He went one way, looking for trouble.
Oh,
you went the other way, getting out of it.
Yeah, I didn't have the head for that. He was just different. He was, like I said, fearless.
But it's good to talk to you anyway.
Yeah, pleasure, Trevor. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
to see you again, man.
Good seeing you.
I'm going to get a haircut.
Yeah,
I'm going to get a haircut, yeah. All right, good luck to you. All right.
John, what do you think it was that made Tim go one way in life and your life took a turn the other way?
Well, I think it was a combination of things. His dad was an attorney, successful. He went to church, he went to private school. The exposure he had to the street was limited. Mine was, every angle of my life was around street guys and mob life. I was exposed to fast money, and anybody around my life was in that business, and I took to it. And I didn't have a problem with getting hurt and being aggressive. I was used to it as a kid.
The Mafia was built on fear and intimidation. For a man like John, rising up through the ranks would depend on his willingness to carry out orders, however brutal. Alite worked for John Gotti in the 1980s and 1990s. Gotti was the godfather of the Gambino crime family, the most powerful and feared mobsters in America. When the order was given to kill local criminal Giorgi Grosso, John was given the job. It would be his first hit.
Giorgi Grosso was a drug dealer, and he was shooting his mouth off, and he was marked to be hit. So he had to go once that order was down. And I set him up to be killed, and I lured him in the car with the rest of the guys, and I drove up near Shea Stadium, which is now Citi Field, and shot him in the head 2 times.
So you put a gun to the back of his head and shot him?
Yeah, it was my hit, and I was going to do the work. I don't like to use the word pride, but at the time, that's what I was thinking. I'm going to take pride in what I do, and I'm going to do it good.
What happened to the body? What did you do with the body?
Just picked it up. I told the guys, move it, and throw it on the side of the road like garbage. We wanted the public, and more so street guys and his brother-in-law, to understand. You do something you're not told, and you disobey our laws and our rules. There is no negotiating. You're going to be killed, and we want everybody to know as an example that you're going to get killed. And we also want them to know who's killing them.
That's how the Godfathers maintain their control. They rely on men like John Alite to kill on command. But in recent times, the story of the Mafia is one of loyalty turning into betrayal. To avoid long prison sentences, gangsters testify against their bosses.
John Gotti, said to be the new godfather. Well, now his most trusted lieutenant has agreed to...
What an error it would be. Not since Al Capone has anybody stirred up the public appetite for a larger-than-life lawbreaker.
The reputed boss of the nation's largest mafia family was arrested tonight in a move by the FBI to crush the Gambino crime family.
Throughout the 1980s, John Alite's boss, John Gotti, had appeared invincible. But when one of his most loyal lieutenants broke the Mafia's code of silence, Gotti's empire fell apart.
Nothing had stuck to the Teflon Don until today.
The Teflon is gone, the Don is covered with Velcro, and every charge in the indictment stuck.
Informers have been the FBI's most valuable weapon in the battle against the mob. I was about to meet the man in this picture. Single-handedly, he has inflicted more damage on the Mafia than anyone else in recent times. A former high-ranking member of the Gambino crime family, his name is Michael DiLeonardo, also known as Mikey Scars. After months of persuasion, Mikey Scars agreed to meet us in Miami. Scars lives in permanent fear of attack and has until recently been in the government's witness protection program. He never told us where he lives. All he would say was that he was flying in from out of state and would meet us in this hotel. This is the first time he's spoken in public.
How safe do you feel in your daily life now?
It's an ongoing process. You never really feel safe. You take each day as it comes along, and you don't dwell on your situation, your past, or you're in danger zones that you could be in and would be in.
What's your worst fear? What will they do to you?
That would be death. Death for myself, but my family paramount. Of course, I have a child and a wife here now. And some of these people, they may not take into consideration who's sitting in the car with me or walking in the street with me or in my house if they kick my door in and kill everybody in the house. That's my biggest fear and biggest concern and what keeps me up at night.
Is it difficult to live with?
Oh, I don't sleep. I sleep an hour, 2 hours, 3, 4 hours tops. But I'm up every night for the last 12 years. I don't get a good night's sleep ever. My conscience bothers me.
What does your conscience bother you about?
The damage that I've done to some people that I loved in the street, friends that I like very much, and just my legacy, what I was born into and raised into, and every fiber of my body that I gave up.
You were captain in the Gambino family, one of the biggest criminal organizations in the country, and you decided to testify against people you work with, people you knew.
People I loved.
People you loved.
Right. After certain things, I was arrested on June 20th of 2002, and I was held without bail. I had many things going on in the street. I was in charge of the construction for the family. I had the stock business. We were making a lot of money for the family and myself. When I didn't receive bail, all my money stopped. Every penny that I was earning in the street, whether it be family related, Gambino family related, or my own personal money that I was earning. And I would send messages back and forth, say what the hell's going on here? Where's the money? I got families I got to support out here. I got to pay for lawyers. Where are we going here? And it became, tell his wife go on welfare. My wife go on welfare. These guys kidding me? I sent a message back out. He says, listen, I don't remember dying and I don't remember getting life. I may come home one day. I sealed a death sentence for myself. I threatened them. So I knew what I was doing. I did not care at that point. I'm facing life in jail for a murder that I was arrested for, that I did for the family. I didn't do it for me.
Do you think you are lucky to still be alive?
Oh, absolutely. It's not if, it's when. I know that's tongue in cheek. A lot of people say those things, not if, when, but that's the truth. I've told my wife, Madeline, I said, Madeline, if I get killed, don't get mad at anybody. What are you talking about? Don't talk like that. No, I accept this is my life. She says, you're out of it. No, I'm never out of it. I'm still part of that life. It's their job to find me and kill me. Don't get mad. Move on. And you tell my son that when he's able to know it. Don't get mad at anybody. I chose this. I know the consequences. And that's it.
These are pictures of Mikey Scar's forebears. His family have been part of the Mafia since its creation in Sicily. When we next meet in New York, I discover how betraying his past puts his life in jeopardy to this day.
Right there. I can't look that way. He'll look right at me. See him standing there? Right here. 2 guys from the Casey family.
How many deaths, murders, do you suppose you are directly responsible for, up to now?
I respectfully decline to answer on the grounds that my answer may tend to incriminate me.
How long have you been in the United States?
I decline
to answer.
Where did you go to school?
I respectfully decline to answer because I honestly believe my answer might tend to incriminate me.
From its inception, the Mafia had to be a secret organization. It survived and thrived by its code of silence. That was key to protecting its structure and its members from the law. All that changed one day in 1963, when a mobster, determined to save his own skin, gave the whole game away.
Who was the boss of the family that you belong to in Cosa Nostra?
Vito Genovese.
Vito Genovese was the boss.
Right. He picks your finger. Who? The Godfather.
He picks your finger.
He picks your finger.
Joe Valachi described the Mafia's induction ceremony revealed that there were 5 ruling families in New York and that the organization was known to its members as Cosa Nostra. More recently, the damage done to the Mafia by Mikey Scars is almost as great. On his evidence alone, 80 of them were sent to prison. His deal with the FBI saved him from a life behind bars, but he knows the mob will never forgive him.
How often do you come back to New York these days?
Not very often. I try to avoid as much as possible.
And why is that?
It'd be like thumbing my, putting a stick in the eye of the people that I've hurt and that are out to, you know, kill me. They're responsible to kill me if they could catch me in the right spot at the right time.
Do they never forget?
Cosa Nostra is one long memory. They don't forget. Cosa Nostra does not forget.
We were venturing into a part of the city Mikey Scars knew well. He wanted to introduce me to an area which holds many memories for him. What I didn't anticipate was that we were about to have a close encounter with some of his friends from the mob.
We're in the heart of Little Italy now. Is this safe here now?
Well, this is a high-risk area. Even though the social clubs and the presence is not like it was years ago, decades ago, there's still a strong presence. You could run into somebody, or I could run into somebody in this area. If I was silly enough to walk down these blocks, I probably would have a problem. And we're going along a block that I was inducted December 24th, 1988. In this building right here.
Oh yes, this one right here.
Mulberry Street. It was a very proud day in my life. I achieved the goal that I wanted to achieve, was being an inducted member of Cosa Nostra and the Gambino family.
It seems amazing to think that even after all this time...
The kid over there with the blue shirt kissing the girls over there, right there. I can't look that way, I'll look right at me. See him standing there?
Suddenly, out in the open, among the tourists, Scars recognizes 2 Mafia members sitting at the table.
Yeah, that's 2 guys from the Casey family.
You recognize them?
Sure.
You recognize them after all this time?
Oh yeah, I know that kid since he was a baby. His father was murdered by the Gambino family. He was with John Gotti on a murder that went wrong. And later on, this fella's father was murdered for screwing up on a hit. He's a nice kid. I like him. Nice kid. Nice man. He did a big bid in jail. And as you see, he's back to daily business. That's what we do.
What precisely would be his reaction if he were to see you driving around now?
Well, he's with another member of organized crime. They would react. They would react in a way, an aggressive manner. If he was alone, maybe a little different he would act. Maybe he may make believe he didn't even see me. You know, but since he's with another member, they put each other on the spot. That why didn't you do anything? How are you going to go back and say, we seen Mikey Scars driving around Mulberry Street, and what'd you guys do? Nothing. They would tarnish their reputation a little bit. They didn't try anything.
The mob goes where the money is, and New York offers the chance to make more money than anywhere else in America. From garbage, gambling, and the garment industry to food, finance, and the construction business, the Mafia turns street thugs into millionaires.
They say the Gambino family has 400 initiated men, 4,000 associates, and an estimated worth of $500 million.
Federal agents began a roundup of some of the alleged mafia bosses and muscle men, said to be behind the mob's theft of hundreds of millions of dollars in gasoline.
I had access to so much cash on a regular basis that you lose perspective of what money is and cash is. It's like you're almost printing it.
John Alite amassed considerable wealth from his life as an enforcer before the FBI caught up with him. He was once the owner of 10 homes, including this estate, where he lived with his family for 20 years. It's more than an hour's drive from New York, but the brutality of those streets was never far away.
This must have been an amazing estate for you to own at such an early age in your 20s.
Yeah, I felt like I was successful, and we loved it. I mean, this is like a big playground for my family. I mean, this was incredible for me. Yeah, I felt, I was elated beyond elated, I would say, really. I really enjoyed it here. My kids enjoyed it. My whole family enjoyed it. It was great.
It must have been tough to give up all this when you had to say goodbye to it all.
Yeah, I was really sad. I mean, when I knew I was going to lose this and it was going to be over, I was more sad for my kids and family than I was for myself, but, you know, because I had the guilt of taking this away from everybody after giving it to everybody. And, you know, obviously my happiness would be my kids being happy here.
Did you think that life would go on forever?
Yeah, I always thought I'd be in a state like this. I never thought things would change. If anything, I thought things would get a lot better.
Yeah. And when you come back now, what are your reflections on seeing this and remembering what went on in the past?
You know, it's some sadness because, you know, I look at that door and I'm waiting for my grandmother to come out of that house again. She would walk out of there with a big smile on her face, and, you know, I was very close to her. So, you know, those memories, they're embedded in my mind. They were great, you know, happy times.
Alite's rise in the Mafia was spectacular. His business assets included nightclubs in Florida, New York, and New Jersey, and he was, for a time, a major drug dealer with connections around the world.
And this is the living room area?
Yeah, it's just the living room facing.
And what's this room?
This is where I kept all the guns. In this back corner, if you go straight back to the left, I had everything hidden back there.
When you say all the guns, how many are we talking about?
Usually at a time about 8 machine guns, 2 semi-automatics, 9mm, a couple of handguns, 41, revolver, 38s, and then I would have some smaller handguns inside, usually Derringers.
That's a huge stack of ammunition, yeah.
Yeah, I had all kinds of ammunition here and weapons.
And this is?
My main bedroom. At the time, was a sunken jacuzzi tub here, and this was the main bedroom, and I would overlook the lake.
You had quite a stack of weapons in this house, John. Did you ever have to use them?
I used them on 2 occasions.
What were those?
One was a construction worker that I was mad at, that I thought he wronged me with some money. I ended up going to prison for that. And another was...
What, did you shoot him? You shot him?
Pistol whipped him with it, beat him up, stripped him down, threw him in the lake. And
so you took all his clothes off, you mean?
Yeah. I ripped his clothes off, broke his eye socket, knocked some teeth out, broke his hand, I believe. And then on a second occasion, I used it when my wife gave me a phone call at the time, my ex-wife, that several guys were waiting up at the top of the road for me. And I shot home and shot it out with them up on the top of the road. And I believe severely wounded 3 of them.
So there was a big shootout?
Yeah.
On this property?
Yeah.
And were you the only shooter on your side?
On my side, I was the only shooter.
Did you have any evidence that that your attackers were wounded?
Oh, for sure I had one down and I killed him. I shot him, I had him on the floor, and I finished him.
That life of guns and shootouts ended when John agreed to testify against other senior Mafia figures. He was given a reduced sentence of 10 years and was let out in 2012. By Sicilian tradition, the Mafia was structured along family lines. Sons followed their fathers into the life.
Michael Franzese was at the top of it all. Passing himself off as a movie producer, was really a tough, violent mafia boss, implicated in mafia murders going back to the 1970s.
I was about to meet one of the most successful mobsters of all time. He was born into a powerful mafia family and into a life he's found difficult to leave behind.
35, take two! On location in Miami with the movie Cry of the City,
Michael Franzese posed as a Hollywood movie producer to launder huge amounts of stolen money. His brilliance at inventing sophisticated scams made the Mafia more than $1 billion. Franzese conned everyone, it seemed, apart from the FBI.
Franzese became celebrities in Miami. The Miami bishop gave them a special blessing from the Vatican. And to the astonishment of federal agents, the mayor of Miami Beach gave Franzese the keys to the city.
Then, during this television interview, he was asked a question he hadn't expected. It brought his criminal life to an end.
The FBI says you're a member of the Colombo Mafia family.
Like I said, the FBI can allege and say whatever they like. They've been doing it for many, many years. But what could I say? That's the FBI. That's law enforcement.
Franzese was indicted on 65 counts of tax evasion, racketeering, and grand theft. But he did a deal and served only 7 years in prison.
Trevor.
Michael.
How are you?
Thank you very much for allowing us in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on in.
Today, Michael Franzese lives with his family in California. He has denounced the Mafia, although his father remains an important figure in the Colombo crime family in New York. Michael, by your own admission, you were one of the most successful members in the Cosa Nostra. Is it possible to find fulfillment in the straight life?
You know, for me, it was extremely difficult because I always tell people, you know, when you have a change or a transformation in life, you don't get a lobotomy. You know, deep inside, I still am who I am and who I was. And so at times I still struggle with it. I honestly do. And for years I struggled with it, especially making the break, because I did feel for the longest time that I was betraying my former life, betraying my oath, betraying my dad. And at times I still have those feelings, strangely enough, I don't know why. But so it was a difficult transformation. And sometimes it's even difficult to maintain this new persona who I am now.
But that suggests that mentally, psychologically, you can't leave it behind.
In many ways, I think you're right. I mean, mentally, it's still a part of me, and psychologically it is. And my dad is still alive, so he's still very much a part of my thoughts. So I believe you're right in that respect. It's still so much a part of who I am.
Is it ever possible to be a member of the mob and have a happy family life?
I don't believe so. People have got to understand, the mob is not a business. It's a way of life. It's a whole subculture from everything else that exists. It affects our families, our friends, people we do business with. It's part of who we are. And I have never seen any family of any member of that life that hasn't gone through tremendous challenges and struggles as a result of that family, of that person's membership in that life. It's just not normal. It's not normal having law enforcement scrutiny around you all the time. It's not normal having, pressure from guys on the street around you all the time. And remember, those are the same people you bring into your home. you know, we're pretty clannish in that regard. You know, we hang out with our own members. So you're around those people all the time. The women speak to the wives of those people all the time. They share all the difficulties and the challenges. So I've never seen a normal family life from any member of that life, including my own, my father, mother, brothers and sisters. We lived anything but a normal life. As much as my parents tried, it was impossible.
So being part of the mob and having a happy family life is simply not on?
No, they're not conducive to one another. You know, I would tell mob guys, if I stay single, you know, don't bring this into your home. Don't create a home with the mob life, you know, around it. It's not good. So it's just not conducive to good family life.
Come to Auntie.
Authorities say the power behind Franzese in the movie business is Michael Franzese's father, John Sonny Franzese, one of the top mafia bosses in the country, who was released from prison just last month and met at the prison gate by his son Michael. The elder Franzese and his mob associates were the men behind the distribution of a number of sex and violence films, including Deep Throat and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Michael's father, John Sonny Franzese, has achieved something of a cult status in the history of the mob. He'd been sent down for 50 years for bank robbery. 4 years ago, at the age of 93, he was convicted again, this time for racketeering after extorting money from a pizza restaurant and from a chain of strip clubs. Sonny Franzese is the oldest federal prisoner in the United States and must surely be the oldest living member of the Mafia. When Cammy met his son Michael on the set of one of his movies, she had no idea about the kind of family she was marrying into.
When you first dated Michael, could you describe the moment when you really discovered what his life was all about?
Wow. When I really discovered what his life really was all about, we weren't dating anymore. We were actually married. So, you know, it was a few years later. And I think I got a little, I mean, I knew there was something more to him because of all the attention he got. And when we went to restaurants, they would just take us right in and give us the best table and the best champagne. So, I mean, you know, he told me he was a businessman and he was a film producer, and, you know, I just assumed that he was just very well liked and very popular. But just, I think it started with his father, when his father was ready to come home. And I was in New York, and I did read a few articles about, you know, Sonny Franzese, the mob boss, and his son, Michael Franzese. So it started to, but you know, what the mob was and what the mafia meant, or whatever word that they used for it at the time, didn't really mean a lot to me. You know, it really didn't. Like today, you know, if my daughters heard that, well, yeah, it would mean everything to them. But for me, I didn't really quite know what that meant, and I didn't really ask. I guess I just didn't want to know.
Do you still worry about him today, given his former life and the risk that poses to his life today? Do you ever worry that he might be killed?
There was a time when I worried about Michael's own father, you know, when he said, I'm going back to visit my dad in New York. And I was probably more concerned then than I ever was. Because,
worried about his father, why?
I didn't trust Sonny. I felt like Sonny's first allegiance was to that family.
To the mob?
To the mob.
Even at the expense of the life of his son?
Yes, and I believed that, and I was fearful of it. And Mike said, you're crazy, my father would never do that. And I said, well, why wouldn't he?
Are there still aspects of Michael's past that cast a shadow on your present life?
I live with this man 29 years. I sleep next to him. I see him wrestling in his sleep, you know, and I know he says, you know, I still have remorse and I still feel pain about some of the things that I've done in my life. And I guess when I'm asleep and I'm having these fits and these, because sometimes I'll just be like, what was going on last night? And he says, well, I guess that's when it comes out, you know, when he's sleeping, when he's just not sleeping peacefully. He's dealing with all his demons from the past.
What one hears a lot about the glamorous side of the life of people who are working with the mob or in the mob. You're presenting the other side, another side of stark reality, which you saw.
It's ugly. There's a lot of ugliness in it, and people are like, oh, the mob, it's so glamorous. And I'm like, you know, someone needs to really tell how glamorous this life is, because it's not. It's really not.
Could it be that the Mafia is capable of wielding such influence that a father might abandon his son to their revenge?
We don't acknowledge any governments. There's this ideology that what we do is right.
People got to understand, the mob is not a business. It's a way of life. It's part of who we are.
I think everybody in the world would love to be treated like a god. Well, I was treated like a god.
The people I met were once true believers in a criminal religion. Today, they're outcasts, cut off from the life they were once prepared to die for. I'm back in Miami, this time to meet someone who is still in the life. It's a chance to find out how the Mafia survives and operates today. The man I'm about to talk to is a low-level street enforcer. He's been in and out of prison all his life, most recently on charges of racketeering. We weren't allowed to say where we met him, and we weren't allowed to show his face.
Thank you very much for giving us so much of your time, and thank you for allowing us to come here. I wonder whether I could begin by asking you this. Which crime family are you associated with?
The McDonald crime family.
That's one of the 5 big families in New York.
Yes, it is.
I'm told that you are an enforcer.
An enforcer is somebody who goes and enforce the rules. Let's say you owe me money, make sure that you paid it that first time I come nicely, second time not so nicely.
Would you ever go as far as threatening to kill somebody?
You don't threaten to kill nobody. I mean, if they're going to do it, it's just done.
How much of that is still happening here?
Not much. Today, it's a different world. Somebody gets in trouble, nobody wants to do time no more. You know, it's the first one who cooperates with the agents gets the best deal. It's a different world. There's no loyalty, no honor no more.
But the difficulty today is that you...
The difficulty is that you play in hand-to-hand combat with the FBI agents today. You know, today the laws are so enforced. It's just hard to do with the technology the FBI has today, and they're going to get you.
Is the Mafia still good at recruiting people?
Yeah. Today it's like years ago it was, you know, you had to kill somebody and you had to you know, be capable to kill. It was like, you know, becoming a Green Beret. But today it's more like if you're a good earner, you know.
Can you trust anyone? Who can you trust?
You could trust the dead man. It's the only person you could trust. That's my motto. I don't trust nobody, except my mother. You can't even trust the boss no more because they turn around and rat on you. On my first case, there was a guy who ratted. It was a made guy, a captain, and he didn't get indicted because he proffered, and he was the big shot, and he, you know, you can't trust nobody no more.
But enforcing still goes on.
Of course.
And you would say the Mafia is still alive and well in this part of the country?
There'll always be a Mafia. Just like there'll always be the Catholic Church or the Jewish religion, there'll always be the Mafia.
For more than 100 years, the Mafia has been by far the preeminent crime organization in the United States. Even though its ranks have been thinned out, its success has been built on a military-like structure and on devout loyalty. Nothing would more demonstrate this commitment than my final encounter with Mikey Scars. I'd arranged to meet him at a cemetery where his elder brother Robert is buried. He worked for the Mafia, and the Mafia killed him.
Right over here, DiLeonardo. Trevor, let me introduce to my brother Rob and his beloved wife, Joanne.
How often do you get here, Mike?
I probably was here only 3 times in the last 14 years. 12 years, excuse me, 12 years.
Were you very close as brothers?
Oh yeah, very close. We were different, you know, but I was more conservative, he was a more liberal guy, easygoing. But a good man, good parent, good father. He died, ironically, 33 years today.
To this day?
To this day, July 16th, 1981.
What was your first reaction on hearing the news of your brother's death?
A devastation. You know, your mind runs 100 miles away. Should I go load up and start killing the people I think killed him? You know, my mother, his wife, his kids, I had to deal with all of that. There's so many emotions going around, and you're trying to act like a man. You're trying to be strong here. You're trying to process this and get the right answer. But what's the right answer? You just lost your brother. Everything goes out the window. But it comes back to the people that came and really not only schooled me, put me in my place and threatened me that this is the life. And you try to gather your emotions. That's unnatural because you want to grieve. You want to get even. I'm a criminal. I'm a gangster in the street. I want to kill my brother. And here I am that I have to listen to older men who've experienced the same thing. You need to be part of Cosa Nostra in this life and accept it or die for it. And I could have went and killed people that I thought were involved in this at that time. I might have killed some of the wrong people. But I would be dead. And what would that have accomplished?
Nothing could justify killing somebody in that way as your brother was killed.
Trevor, this is the life. This is the life we chose. This is the life he chose, the path. And this is part of the end result. When you do something wrong in that life, or alleged to do something wrong in that life, your life is not your own. You're property of somebody. You're property of this entity, this Cosa Nostra that goes back hundreds of years. You're property of theirs. And when you get involved there, you know what could happen. He killed people. He was involved in murders. And ultimately, he paid the price that he doled out to others.
Despite the way you rationalize this, how is it possible to remain part of the life when they're capable, or when it's capable, of doing such horrific things to you and those closest to you?
Well, that's the part about living the life with every fiber of your body and believing in that life and that ideology. We're brothers. This is the whole thing. We kiss each other on the lips. We kiss each other on both cheeks. We give each other hugs. We baptize each other's kids. And the next day, they're shooting you in the back of the head. As crazy as it seems, I love the life, along with a lot of other people that accepted those rules and lost loved ones. It's a hard thing to come to terms with. A person like yourself is to say, how does this guy lose his brother and say, it's okay? It's not okay. It's not okay. It's just that it's their life. It's the life you lead. It's the life you choose. And he made a mistake, and he paid the ultimate price.
Thank you for allowing us to make this visit with you.
Oh. Well, you know what? He deserves some kind of audience. He was a nondescript fella who just was a working guy trying to support his family. They got involved in a life that we all knew, and he paid the price of making the wrong decision.
It's a heavy price to pay.
Yeah, for his whole family. Nobody was the same after that.
Bottle, bottle,
Next time.
What did you think about the setup in the Mafia? I mean, they had codes, you know, loyalty, silence.
It's bullshit. The only code is make what you can get. Take what you can get. Who cares about that shit?
From a man who didn't believe in it to a man who embodied everything it stands for. I meet the former godfather of the Philadelphia mob.
You killed your friend?
Yes. Because he wanted to kill me.
John Alite, the sheriff, introduces me to his family.
Did I admire him growing up and see what he did and watch those movies and you say, wow, like I would love to do that? Yeah.
And I discover how Michael Franzese became perhaps the richest gangster since Al Capone.
You made staggering amounts of money.
At one point in time, I was pulling in close to $10 million a week.
$10 million a week.
It was fun at the time, I gotta admit that.